Good morning, everyone. I hope you're able to hear us and see the presentation. I just will check with Arun, who I can see in the screen, if everything is working okay. Thumbs up would work for me, Arun. That sounds like that looks good. Welcome everybody who's there. Thank you so much for joining in and also being on mute, because we are in a nice silence here. As seen in the email and the invitation from Rehan, we're here to do a little rerun of Module 2 section called Fees, which we ran recently from Bangkok, and there were some considerable issues with Skype that were unamendable at that time. So also we want to make sure that everybody who wants to tap in is available now. So we invited the marketing teams of PepsiCo in the markets. And just to remind you guys, we're Thailand, Vietnam, Pakistan, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Philippines. And of course, down under we have Australia. So a nice spread between us all. And thank you so much. I realize in Australia it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, so it's your lunchtime. But I believe this will be worth your time. So thank you again for checking in. What we will not cover this time is some of the meta-analysis learning, which we had from 107 PepsiCo studies around the world. Those have been shared on the Facebook group. If you are not a member yet, then ask your Facebook contact or anybody from the PepsiCo regional team for the others. Join in. We have a few admins on the side of the agency, side of PepsiCo, and at Facebook. What else will we cover? So you will see there the additional slides, as I said, are in the group. What we'll cover today will focus on two elements. One is, and you see a lovely lady next to me, which is Juhi. She will introduce herself more in depth in a second. She will take us to a nice presentation that covers a nice setup of logic and magic, and it gives creative inspiration from a different angle, both from the existing products that you see in your Facebook feed on a regular basis, plus a lot of the new products that are out there and that are being used in a smart way to inspire you and see how we can even create better experiences, not just for people to see our brands, to understand of our brand messages, but also to make sure that our messages are fun to read and are just a great experience to have. And at the end, Arun and specifically Rehan will take us to a bit of the process, how we go through the Mobile Ambassador Program pitch process that will be stretched from between now and the coming few months. If you haven't been tapped in yet, you will learn a bit more about the details in any form and what the expectations are from you guys. So with no further ado, I'll leave it here to Juhi, and she heads up Creative Shop for PepsiCo and some of the other brands in the region. And
Thank you, Oscar. Can you guys all hear me clear? Loud and clear? Thumbs up will do, someone? Okay, great. So I have a lot of, within the next sort of 40 minutes to maybe 45 minutes, I have a lot of creative examples to show, to hopefully provoke and inspire, and maybe even do a little bit of a sort of a reflection on the kind of work that we are currently doing and what is the potential, what we can do together along with all your agencies. And I'll show you a lot of examples. So if there's a delay and there's a lag, someone just shout out and let me know, and we'll plan and we'll slow down. Okay, so thank you for having us. We're going to be talking about, I like to say, I know we've heard this many times in advertising, logic and magic, but especially more so when it comes to mobile, when it comes to Facebook and Instagram, because there are certain frameworks that we know for a fact. I don't like to call them rules, but they are guidelines and they're best practices and principles that we know for sure. We have tested, we have data around that. We know that it works. That's the best way to use the platform with your creative. Having said that, within that framework, there should be freedom to explore and freedom to play so that we can, make the most of it is creative at the end of the day. So it's not hard and fast, but I'd like to keep that mindset, which is there is a framework, but there is also freedom to explore and mess with it a little bit now and then. So Oscar gave me a lovely introduction already. My name is Juhi. I have spent the last 19 years in advertising, working with a bunch of very many different agencies. And now I take care of creative at Creative Shop, and we'll get into this in a minute. I'll show you a little reel. Creative Shop, the way we define our role is we're within Facebook to ensure and to help, to guide, to inspire, to consult, and even to co-create along with brands and with agencies, some of the best creative work and work that is right for feed. So creative ideas that are made for the newsfeed by understanding how people behave on the platform and what's the best way to get them and what's the best way to make impact and get the brand message across. That's really our job, and we work in different levels of engagement. Like we can have different structures where it could be just a light consult. Sometimes we go in all the way and we'll lead the shoot and the agency can follow. We are not built like an agency. We're platform experts, so we don't have the bandwidth to do the work each time, but we're always happy to sort of lean in and consult and see in what way we can drive the process along. I'm going to play a little video that gives you a better idea of what Creative Shop does and is.
Video is lagging a little bit.
Is it done?
Yep.
Was the video lagging a little bit? Is it done? Are you still watching it? I think I can start talking again.
It's fine from my end.
Okay, great. Thank you. So we work in different ways and we can engage in different ways, but the intention is always the same, which is to help great brands do great work on the platform. So before we jump into creative, I think just a little, we've said this many times, I think maybe Oscar said this in his presentation as well, which is we need maybe some of us are already here, but I always reiterate this in every meeting, in every presentation, which is for the last couple of years, especially with creative agencies and stuff, the mindset's been very social. it is a social media platform, and but the thinking or the mindset has been, and it worked for a while, and that's where we were, which is, what is shareable content, and is this, and those were the metrics, right? Which is, hey, can you make my video go viral, or are people going to share this? And that's wonderful, but those days are over, because organic sharing is a very rare thing that happens now. And I think we just want to think about this now more as, so we say social media, and I think the social media part of it, we've really done a lot of work and a lot of thinking around the social part of it, and not now it's time to think of it as a media platform, because it is a massive reach aggregator in all of the countries that have joined in today. The number of people who we reach with Facebook, and if you were to reach them with a proper plan and not just, a prayer and a wish that, the content is great and someone might share it, but actually put a considered media plan behind it, and do the creative in a way that is targeted, and use all the tools that are available on Facebook, that is a way to make much better impact. And then if people share it and it goes viral, that's a bonus, if it's good, it will, and that's a nice bonus to have. So the mindset, so the starting point really is going to be, which is to think of it from when we approach it, even to say, hey, this is my business objective and I want to reach it, or I want to raise brand awareness, or have 3 new flavors to launch, whatever that objective might be, we have to start thinking of the channel as more of a mobile channel, where you can target very, very sharply. We can target audiences based on interest and times of the day, etc. But we can do it at scale, right? We're not talking about a few 100,000. We're talking about millions of people at scale, on the news feed every day, 4 times a day, or maybe more. So it's a campaign-based plan with reach and frequency sort of thinking and sufficiency. It's got to be high quality creative, which we put in to make sure that it stops thumbs on the feed, and it's created for the platform. It's optimized for the platform by understanding how people behave on it. We also talk about pre-testing, and we talk about, A/B tests. And it's the beauty of mobile and the beauty of Facebook is that you don't have to take my word for it. You don't have to make a judgment call. We can take a best sort of case guess and then say, hey, we have 2 options. Let's just put them both on A, B, and within 3 days, which one's resonating more and which one people are connecting with more. And then you take that, you iterate, you put more money behind that, and then that becomes the way to go, So we can learn, test very quickly, see what's working and adjust, and then go ahead and move on that. So and obviously the most important thing, which is real business impact, so it isn't just how many people liked my video, because that really means squat. We know that that's not a real metric, because some people like to click, some people who really like it maybe don't click. So there's no way to do an accurate. So what really matters is if you set out an objective up front and said, hey, what, I want to drive brand awareness, or I want to drive brand love, or I want to drive purchase and conversions and change behavior. Those are real goals, right? If those are real goals, we can then design the creative and the media work together to achieve those goals in the best way possible. And that's the way we should be. Sorry if this is not a very creative way of, it's not, I promise I'll get to the fun stuff too. But once we're aligned on the basics, then it'll all make sense. So, this old school sort of way of thinking that, hey, how many fans does my page have? Or even thinking of always on is not advisable anymore. Instead, it's, I'm launching this is what I'm doing everywhere else, on TV, on billboards, on outdoor, in store. What do I do on Facebook? So planning that ahead upstream when you plan for the campaign, and making it work by campaign basis. So, things like I already talked about this, all the shiny, trendy metrics versus doing a real job. So this is what we believe is the role of Facebook, right? That's what I'm here to talk to you about today, which is getting the creative right and then making it even more amazing. So getting the basics right. Some of us are already doing it. A lot of brands within PepsiCo are doing a great job of it. And some could be doing more. But getting the basics right within that simple, there's a simple playbook, and we'll talk through that. And then not just getting it right is step one, and then sort of realizing the potential of what all we can do once we get the basics right. There is so much room to play and explore and do really cool stuff. It's shown to, so if the creative is right for mobile, it's designed and it's optimized for newsfeed, for Instagram, and then it's shown to real people, right? These are not, it's not cookie based. It's shown to real people with real identities. I know exactly who they are. It's shown at scale, which is I know I'm talking to when I'm talking to kids, or I say kids, but when I'm talking to young adults in Thailand, I know exactly who I'm talking to and how many of them I'm talking to, right? And then all of this is done matched together to drive great brand and business outcomes. Very quickly, last one chart to talk about the logic of things before we get into the magic of it, which is this is what we call the funnel, and I know everyone has their own different take on this in different organizations, but basically the principles are the same, right? Which is is the objective to drive awareness, in which case it'll be the top of the funnel, and it's a very basic. In that case, you want to reach as many people as possible with a good frequency, with a healthy frequency, and that's all that you really want to do, which is, what we sometimes do with television, for instance. Then what's beautiful about Facebook and Instagram is that you can retarget people. So if that awareness was this many people and that's what I did, then I can drive them down to consideration. I can say, versus competition, or more number of times a day driving consumption, in the summer, for instance, for a cold drink or whatever. So driving consideration means they're evaluating me and they're thinking about purchase, and, that purchase intent is happening. And then acquisition, which is, either trials or sampling or walk-ins to retail stores, and in so many markets, even purchase on e-com, and other channels like that. And there's ways to sort of measure that and show how what we did with the creative on Facebook actually results in that. And then the last thing might be retention, which is either repeat behavior or, driving number of flavors, or making sure that they still love us and they stay with us. And depending on which of these in the funnel we want to achieve, we'd obviously consider different kinds of creatives for it. We would have a different media plan around it. Okay, enough about that. So very simply, from a creative point of view, if I was to simplify things, the two things that any brand wants to do, one would be to move minds, which is you want to convince me rationally that, Pepsi is better than competition, or you want to convince me give me a rational message, which is, hey, you know what, it's more flavorful because it's got more vinegar in it, or I don't know. So that's a basic functional message that is giving me information, right? And that's a simpler message to a certain extent, which is available in 3 new flavors. That's a rational message. And that's something we know is very easily doable on Facebook. And I think we've seen many examples. I'm sure you have too, and I'll show you many. And it's possible to do that pretty quickly. The fun part is moving hearts, and this is where I would like to sort of provoke and inspire and say, even this, I would argue, is very, very possible, and some brands are doing a great job of it. But it, again, is a slight difference in mindset, because we don't just take a TVC and slap it on Facebook, right? We can tell stories. You can build emotional connections with the brand and talk about brand love and, emotional sort of, okay, great flavors, but what is that? So, for instance, Quaker is available in 3 new flavors is a rational benefit, but a rational message. But then, great start to your day because, that's what it does for your life. When you have a great start, you have a great life, etc. Those kind of higher order stories and messages also very, very possible to tell if we do them with a proper plan. So really, at the end of the day, the creative advantage, your competitive advantage, is driven by your creativity, because this is true for all advertising, I suppose. On TV, I have so many channels to choose from. We know people don't like watching ads unless there are exceptions. Sometimes they do. So we're constantly interrupting their content, whether it's an ad you can't skip, or it's on television or somewhere else. And therefore, and more so even on digital and on mobile, because we know that, not just on mobile, but everywhere, attention spans are at 8 seconds now. And that is, there's a funny meme going around that says it's one less than a goldfish. And that's like a really tiny brain. Goldfish keeps forgetting what it was thinking about. And we're becoming like that, alarmingly, but that's, that's just how much content is out there for us to look at, and how many things are distracting us at different points in the day. And how much choice there is. So really, the consumer is in the driving seat. They can choose what they want to spend time with, and so we better make sure that we're worth their while. We either give them something of value, or we entertain them, or we surprise them, and that becomes very important on newsfeed, because we have a saying in Creative Shop that says, the feed doesn't forgive. So if you didn't get it right and you weren't interesting enough, it won't be the best use of the media money. And in the converse is also true. And we have data, we have done some tests with a lot of clients that show literally that when your creative is right and it's designed for feed, we did an A/B test, and it shows you that your ROI actually goes up by 12 times. Again, this means it's common sense. We know this intuitively. All of us know that, an ad that is good and is well done and is creative and is right will be more efficient. It'll be remembered more. It doesn't need that many more times of airing and things like that. So but now there's really you don't have to take my word for it. And intuition, it's 12 times more effective and more efficient if the creative is right for feed. But I guess what is good on feed? That's the $1 million question, right? I talked about this a little bit. What is good on feed generally is what is good everywhere. That, all good advertising pretty much has the same basics, and we all are. You don't need me to sit and tell you that. I think we're all experts and we're all marketers, and we know that, it has to be on brand. It has to drive, sort of connect with me emotionally. Whether it's a small little connection which makes me laugh and smile for a few seconds, or it's a deep emotional connection that makes me feel like, hey, Pepsi bottles giving light in Pakistan, so that's a very big, emotional, deep, sort of a goosebumpy kind of a connection. But something small and little will also make me laugh. That's also an emotional connection. So right for brand, making an emotional connection, and doing a good job of storytelling and being remembered. So this becomes even more accentuated on feed. That's the only difference. So brand, right for brand, but right for brand early. So I need to know very quickly, who is this that I'm talking to? Who is serving me this ad? In case I don't stay with you, I need to know who you are. This is not some other competitive, chips, but so leading up to a point versus landing the branding early. And even catching attention, which is a basic tenet of all good advertising, right? When something is interesting and intriguing and it makes me want to watch more, that's great. That works for TVCs and it works for everything. But on feed, you have to catch that attention very early. You can't save the best bits and lead up to them, because people are not going to stay that long with you, and they're going to miss the best parts, which come too late. So all of this is with the context of the fact that there are some big shifts that are happening. I think we know this. I talked about this a little bit already, which is, we're living in a world that's content rich, and attention is like the new oil. It really is an attention economy, because we're paying for people's attention. We're earning. We have to catch it. We have to keep it. We have to earn it. We have to be good enough to keep it. And this is where really creative comes in. We can sometimes get self-indulgent, and we love our own advert. I do this, I love my own idea, and you fall in love with it, and then to me it's fantastic, but I have to really sort of step away objectively, and we all have to do it and say, if I was on Facebook and I had cute babies to look at, and my friends' wedding photos, and so many exciting, the new trailer of Game of Thrones, all of that is fighting for my attention, would I look at my own ad? How much time would I spend with it? And that's a really simple reflection. We all are human. We all are on Facebook, and we know how it, just to be honest with ourselves. So catching attention, we said, yes, it's 8 seconds is tough. With, I think, Gen Xers, it's even less. It's like 3 or 2 seconds now. So people my age, it's 8 seconds, is still good news. But I think so if we're talking to maybe housewives who are in an older, and we have really interesting data around even scrolling speeds. So when it's a younger demographic, they actually scroll much faster. Like people in their 30s and 40s have a slower scrolling speed. Kids are just insane. They're scrolling faster. But the good news is that the brain is evolving, and the brain is plastic in many ways. It's getting rewired. And because we're living in a world where so much is coming at us, we're adapting pretty quickly. And that's heartening. So if we design for it, and as long as we don't stick our heads in the sand and still do those 2-minute think that people are going to be sitting and waiting to watch my 2-minute film, as long as we are conscious that that's not going to happen, let's start with honesty. At the most, I have 8 seconds. If I'm lucky and I'm great, then I'll get more time. People will stay for the next 10 seconds if I do a good job, and maybe for the next 20. I know there's a lag, but I'll just show you this very quickly. And I want to go, what did you see? We can go on mute at this point, and I'd love to hear if anyone saw, what did anyone see on the screen? Anyone? I can't see anyone except Arun and Rehan, so someone has to tell me. Bernice has joined.
Yeah, so basically.
Yes, what did you see?
So my name is Maurice. So my name is Maurice, guys. So basically, the screen was expanding and contracting.
And what did you see? What was it?
Can you hear me?
Was it a brand? Yes, I can hear you, Mukesh. Was it a brand? Could you see the brand?
Yeah. I could see the brand. It was Wix.
Very good. What else? Anything else that stuck out?
The screen was expanding and contracting. That's what I saw.
Okay, great. So thank you. So for helping me in this demonstration, Mukesh, because that's what it was. It was less than 1 second it was on for, and you got the brand, and you even got the branding, the post going up and down. So it really, this was just to prove a point that if it's designed well and with sort of good art direction, branding is done in a way that is impactful and visual, we actually take less than a quarter of a second to remember stuff and to notice stuff. This is the full ad, and it's still just 3 seconds. It is not a 30-second TVC. It's not 15. It's literally 3 seconds on a loop, and you don't need more than this. I love to show this example because a lot of people say, can you be creative in 3 seconds? What can you do in a couple of seconds? If you put your mind to it, you can do a lot. So this to me is already saying, it says VIX, it says up to 8 hours relief. It tells me that you can breathe easy, right? And visually, you get that very clearly. So if we put our heart and mind on it and say, I'm going to really think of these 3 seconds as my, this is my trailer. What will I do with these 3 seconds? You can do a really good job even in a short amount of time. So, and there's an argument for compression driving attention and driving views. So maybe you've seen this show. It's James Corden. It's a 1-hour show on TV. And it gets about 1.28 million people watching it every episode, right? And what we did as an experiment was we only pulled out the carpool karaoke section of the show, where he gets in the car and sings with celebrities. So that's about 14 minutes. That's a part of the show. And only those 14 minutes were aired on Facebook, and it got 107.6 million views, right? So less people will sit through the whole show, but your number of viewers, like look at how many more people, it's almost 100 times more people watched just the highlights, right? Just the best bits. So this is the argument for this is it's almost like, you'll get X million people who will sit through the whole cricket match, but you'll get more people who will watch just the highlights because those are the best, the juiciest bits. So compressing and really squeezing the best portions into a first few seconds makes for a good solution. As long as we do it knowing that it should be visual. We are all visual people, even if you're copywriters and accountants. Human beings are visual first because visuals help us understand complex concepts very quickly. You saw that breathing, you saw that. So I could have just written Vicks breathe easy, and that could have been that. But we made the post breathe up and down and expand and contract because that's a visual device that really dramatizes the logic that it makes me think of breathing easy. So visualization of key benefits or key themes or the main point that you want to make really helps me understand it, and also helps me sort of emotionally feel things. I'd like it, or I'll remember it a little bit more. It gets coded in our long-term memory. This is Oreo. They do a really good job of branding. This was for Instagram, and there's no main message, but it's visually so powerful. Just playing with the cookies and having the brand come in from the very first. It's central to the visual. Very impactful, creative visuals. So playing with visuals in a way where they really make impact, where they are surprising, where you can use techniques like optical illusions where you have things coming out into the white space. So it's a small screen, making the most of that screen. So we used to, when you shoot TV commercials and you say, hey, I'm going to I have a great TV commercial on Pepsi or Mountain Dew, or I'm going to put it on Facebook. Great. Usually we shoot them 16:9, which is horizontal, and a director will tell you, it looks so cinematic, and when you air it in the cinema, well, the trick is this is not in the cinema, it's on your mobile phone, which is this small, and in many markets we still have feature phones, which are even smaller screens, right? So even though it's a small screen, it's close to me, so it makes great impact, but it's up to us to maximize that impact and to make the most of that real estate. So 16:9 will be a tiny strip on the phone. It'll be this small, and all that wonderful money cinematography and all of that will be lost and wasted because it's so tiny. So we used to say, make it 1:1. You can recrop existing stuff and you can make sure it's 1:1, so it gets you a bigger screen size. And now we have vertical video, you have Instagram stories, and that's the biggest size you will get on a mobile phone. That's 9:16, so it's 16:9 literally turned like this. In fact, we recently shot some Instagram stories where, the director was like, oh, I've never shot vertical before. I don't know what to do with it. I have to hack it. So we turned the camera like this, and even the monitor when we were shooting, it was 9:16 aspect ratio that you do for TVCs, and then he just turned it like this, and it became 16:9. So it's a huge space, and also vertically there are creatively interesting, great things we can do with that. So pouring shots look fabulous on a vertical screen, for instance. So it's a little bit of a rethink. And again, playing with assets you already have or making something from scratch, both are possible, but optimizing for visual cues. So very quickly jumping into what are the 4 basic principles. We talked about compression a little bit. Creating for newsfeed, I talked about frameworks earlier, which is what are the simple basic tenets to remember, like a little checklist to make sure that we're right for feed, at least. Even if you're taking the TVC or you've got an existing key visual and you want to put it on Facebook and you don't want to produce something new and it's too complicated, that's fine. But even doing that, there are a few small, simple tweaks that are important because they make more impact on the newsfeed. So you might already have assets, or you maybe have nothing, or you have just a pack shot. What do I do now? And in both cases, it's possible. And at any point in the process, you might have shot the commercial already, or you might have a key visual, or you might call us and say, hey, can you talk to my agency because we're about to go into a shoot, and if we could pick up any extra shots on vertical, or is there something we could do that's just a quick little extra shot that might make an amazing little piece on Facebook. That's a great way to think upstream, because that's a better way to plan, and it's also usually cheaper and more impactful and better efficiencies of scale. So 5 simple basic moves. We talked about this. I think many of you are already doing this. I'll just reiterate it. Front loading the brand identity, but doing it creatively. We talked a bit about attention spans and 3 seconds. The Vicks example I showed you, where the brand is already in the frame from the first 0 second. Keeping it short and saucy, which is leading with the best bits, and not leading up to it, but short. So whether it's a 0-second video, which is a cinematograph, all the way up to say 6 seconds or maximum 15, I would never go beyond that unless you are looking at a different format like Facebook Live. Optimally, try to stay less than 15 seconds if we can, and unless it's a major exception. Making it clear even with the sound off, because in most all markets, autoplay happens on mute. So if you got great dialogue and a great story and I don't get it because even basic subtitles weren't there, it's such a waste. So maximizing the small screen, like I said, and making things move. Simple things like movement gets the brain's attention on feed. This is a great example from Instagram, and this is a cinematograph. It's literally less than a second. And this was repurposed from a key visual. I'll go back and start it again. And it says, "We breathe what we buy." I think they had posters of this, but just so powerful, that image of, the forest burning with the smoke. Adding that little movement makes it so noticeable. So it's just catching the eye, making it thumb-stopping and noticeable on feed. Adding movement helps. This is something we did with the agency and Pepsi in India for Kurkure. And they wanted to do different recipes and different sort of do your own take on how to eat kurkure. And we have a whole series, but I'll play one for you. It's on a lag, so. So we did a whole series. Again, what's nice is this was created for feed, so it's a very simple like tabletop 1-day shoot, and vertical video, which is great. It's a great use of like split screens, optical illusion. You feel like the ball is coming right out at you, things like that. Playing with the white space and having fun with it. And again, really quick and short. It's giving me something useful, which is wonderful. It's giving me value. I can look at this recipe and try it out. It makes me feel like eating it, and it's fun to watch. So quick little recipe. And again, these are 15 seconds. And what's nice is that the idea is almost built around the time, right? That it's so tasty. It's done and made in 15, gone in 2 or whatever. Made in 20, gone in 2. This is something that was recently done out of our EMEA region for Instagram stories. And this is just playful visualizations of how much fun stacks are, so the Lay's stacks, and it's almost like a video arcade. This just says stacks equals fun and playfulness and different flavors. And the copy talks about I want to show you this because it's a beautiful song, and sometimes we have beautiful songs, right? You might come and say, "Hey, my song is so beautiful. What do I do when people are watching it on mute?" And again, creatively, there is so much stuff possible with, instead of just doing boring old auto captions or subtitles, playing with the typography in a way that is almost evocative of the music, right? They were so beautifully designed. The typography made me feel like, and when I see the first few frames and those supers come on and the cute babies, I almost tap on it. And when I tap on it, the audio comes on. So you'd almost tempt people into enjoying the other textures. So the logic is that with no sound, it should make sense. With sound, it gives me added value. Like with sound, obviously you can have sound, and it's wonderful to have because sound gives you emotion and it gives you feelings and texture and all of that. But at least without sound, it should be complete. I shouldn't be confused as to what happened. Someone was talking and I missed the whole dialogue, etc. Playing with, this is something that was optimized from the TVC. So they had a TVC and they came to us with a standard TVC, and we said, just get playful with it and do things with a vertical screen. So with a vertical video, do playful stuff with a split screen, play with 1:1 as well, and try different sort of formats on proportions. And again, very, very simple. I want to just show you that instead of slapping the TVC as a 30-second on, they cut it into short bits. It starts with branding up ahead, and it maximizes the screen space. So, and doing small things like this, it sounds not like rocket science, but we sometimes forget, and it's changing behavior. And even a small fix like this makes such a big difference in ad recall, and 20 points up, 10 points up, big difference. And I would like ourselves to sort of be a bit, this is not very creative, but this is a bit where we can police this a little more. Once we enforce the basics, we are making sure that we are giving the creative the best chance on the platform. And you can still do it inventively and creatively. So checking for, is the branding coming quickly, early? Is it as short as it needs to be? And is it getting to the best points early on rather than later? So think of it like a movie trailer where it starts with you show me all the juicy portions up front, and then making sure that it's sound off ready. It works even with the sound off. I'm getting the message. We can do things which are also, when you design for feed, you can, I was talking about, this is nice because I wanted to show this because it's a drink. It's not Pepsi, it's a beer, but it can even revive a brand. And this is a famous brand in Europe, which is not cool anymore, and they wanted to revive it doing so. They only did Facebook, no TV, no other media, and it was a great exercise because we saw amazing results. And this is the label. So this is the beer bottles label. The guy on the label is pretty iconic. So there was a whole series of these that were done in a simple shoot with just this dude. So this character on the label comes alive. And it's a great way to get branding in early. It's a very visual, great use. It's short, it's fun, Italian for what matters, and then, and it's very memorable because it's an iconic brand and you're playing with a label. So even when you have only a label, you can animate it and you can do cool stuff with it. So they did about 7 different executions. All of them, again, I'd like you to notice how, they really maximize the screen space. And understanding behavior. So like the middle phone, it's how you scroll, right? And that's a video, but it mimics that feeling and that behavior on Facebook. So it feels right and feels native somehow. Each time, simple, quick, short messages, 6 weeks. And then the same things were adapted for Instagram stories, which is a full vertical frame, right? Instagram stories now have ads. So I'm sure you're aware of this, but in Instagram stories, you can have your friends, and this is important because I think a lot of our brands, we talk to young adults and they're really it's blowing up. Like I forget the number, but we're way over. They're coming from Snapchat to Instagram stories. And they're on it. I think we can check for you the figures, but
it's about 200 million out of the 700 million.
Yeah, and a lot of young adults are so that you have your friend stories in the tray up there on the on the Instagram page. So you'll have your friends are creating stories, and in between the friend stories that I care about and I want to watch, we can insert a 15-second ad, an Instagram story ad, and it's literally like a TV commercial. It's like a break. It's an ad in between content, right? So we should think of using platforms and using those formats where the target is behaving is available. Fish where the fish are. Okay, I'll keep moving. I want to just show you quick behind the scenes. We love to prototype. So this was done with the agency. And again, you try it, you explore, you see what works. It's a quick sort of, one day in the studio from start to finish, and you do a whole bunch and you play with colors and see which one resonates more and go with that one. And again, great results for something that was only Facebook as a campaign. Awareness lift massive in just 2 days, 33% and 11% on message association. Sometimes you might come to us and you might say, hey, you know what? I don't have a big TV commercial. I don't want to shoot, even if it's just one day. I have already planned my assets. What do I do? You can optimize stuff from a poster. So even from a key visual. So this is a great example. This was a static poster and a little movement that was relevant. So it's Macbeth, so it's got to be blood and a blood spill. It feels right for the brand, for Macbeth, and branding is up front. This was done for the Star Wars launch on Instagram. Again, it was just a basic poster. All of this movement can be created with, post-production, very easy to do. All your agencies can do this, and there are apps as well now to do this. It's so simple that it's sort of it's a no-brainer to why we're not doing this. This was a TV commercial we recently did. I want to show you what's possible just to catch attention, right? We could have slapped the TV commercial. There might be a lag, so I'll just keep going, but standard TV commercial in China, Scarlett Johansson, beautiful hair shot, new looking lovely backs. That's it. We could have slapped this on as is and it would have been okay, but I think we racked our brains and said, how can I get more attention? How can I make this more interesting on feed? So those three things, which is maximize the branding, make it interesting. And this is like a 360 that was created out of the assets. So it was we took the TV commercial and we created a fake sort of a 360 video out of those assets in just online post-production. And what's nice is people want to play with this. It's just it's just a pretty back and beautiful hair shots. So that's all there is, but let's make it fun too. And we got amazing the amount of time people spent engaging with this, playing with this. Even we said let's not talk about sharing as a metric, but the fact that people did share it and talk about it is a lovely bonus. So when it comes to doing functional stuff, like we were saying, moving minds, it doesn't take very long. And I want to show you some very quick examples. I'll breeze through. This is Surf saying, hey, you know what? My washing powder now made for washing machines. You don't need more than 1 second. Job done, right? So this is something we did in-house recently for Quaker, and this was just done out of a JPEG. It was a poster, and we animated it, and it just, it's not on a loop in the presentation, but on feed, anything less than 30 seconds will go on an auto loop anyway. So it's like a GIF. It keeps dropping in. We can launch new flavors, new news. You can glorify ingredients. So this was just a pack shot. And that's all they had. And then we said, why don't we burst the pack shot, add a little 3D animation to it and, glorify all the, if you feel like eating those chips. And you also get the point that it's jalapeno flavor, so it's on fire. It's literally 3 to 4 seconds. Doesn't take long to glorify the ingredients. It doesn't take long to showcase variety, because that might be the case sometimes, right? Hey, I have so many different variants and make it look good. This is something that was done in Philippines very recently. Again, it's not some award-winning creative or anything, but it was made. Why I wanted to show it to you is because of how simple it is. It was made out of a poster. So this was, hey, we just have a poster. What do we do? We're like, okay, no worries. We'll make the leaves move. We'll make the nesty sort of swirl, the wind. And, this was then served to people in a media plan in the afternoon in the summer when the temperature went over 30. So it was temperature triggered ads that you saw in your feed, and it makes you so to drive craving and hunger and deliciousness and thirst. That's an easy way on mobile. This is a functional benefit, right? Fresh breath as cold and chilled as a polar bear's bum. I don't know. But again, this is pulled out of a TV spot that was 30 seconds. But trust me, this is the best part of the TVC. I don't want to see the rest of it. This is so cool. I get the branding up front, the polar bear coming right at me on my phone screen. Again, that white space and playing with that really makes it thumb-stopping because it drives surprise. This is lovely. It's storytelling in a way, but it's designed for a phone. It's designed in a short time. In just 3-4 seconds, I get Oh, okay. Even zombies like Mikado more than human beings. Thank you very much. So, um, so we talked about like all the examples I just breezed through very quickly showed what I wanted to drive was whatever that objective might be, it's very possible to play with 3 to 4 seconds if we put our mind to it and get the branding up front, keep it to 3 4 seconds, 3 to 6 max, and do a design for that and think for that, and it's very possible to do it versus just slapping the TVC as is and then hoping that it'll work, you know. The other thing, we have this wonderful, we'll talk about context. So it's not always that. So the question you might ask is, oh, so is it only 3 seconds and 6 seconds? Is that all that it's good for? What if I have a longer story to tell? Or what if I want to build brand love? You know, how do I go about that? And the answer to that is we always say a campaign should be based on this behavior that we've observed. This is how people are consuming content, which means including ads on mobile, right? Which is they're either on the go. When they're on the go, it's I'm rushing. My attention is really divided. I'm distracted. I'm on a commute or I'm in a meeting. Lean forward is when I have a little bit more time and a little more inclination. So I'm in the right mindset to maybe engage a little more. Like I might swipe a carousel or I might play with a 360 video, etc. And lean back is where I have determined or I'm in the mood to watch something longer, you know. So again, the consumer is king, right? If we just are aware of what mood they're in, and again, you can common sense map this around the times of day. Like usually rush hour in the morning, weekdays, it'll be on the go, right? Lean forward might be interesting, for instance, in Jakarta or in Indonesia when there is massive traffic jams and you know you're going home at 5:30, 6:30, office is done. You might think that's on the go, but actually everyone's stuck in a traffic jam and they have an hour to kill. So that's a great time where I might be in the mood for watching something longer. And lean back might be, you know, either a weekend afternoon, or it might be that I've put my kids to sleep and I have now it's 10 o'clock at night and I finally have time for myself. And I'm into watching something a little bit more. So understanding this behavior is a good way to say what's the context in which my ad is being viewed, and therefore I will. And the general rule, we call it the 70-20-10 rule. So we over-index. So 70% of our campaign should be on the go because that's reality. We are all in a rush in today's world, and everyone's attention is low. So 70% should be on the go kind of stuff, which is your 3 to 6 seconds, hardworking, lots of reach, short stuff. Lean forward is about 20, and then lean back is about 10. And I'll give you a little rough mapping of on the go is what I just showed you. A lot of these examples, right? 3 second, 6 second GIFs, cinemagraphs, really short videos, making a vertical video so that you have maximum impact, but keeping it short. So this is on the go kind of stuff. We have a format called carousel, which I'm sure you're familiar with. Carousel, canvas, 360 is where I have to opt in a little bit. Like I have to click on the canvas. I need to lean in a little bit, and that's on the go. Those are the kinds of formats that work. Don't worry so much about audience network, but really live, Facebook Live and that kind of stuff. Or maybe even if I was to go outside of Facebook and say, you know, maybe if I'm watching content, not even ads, but I'm watching content on YouTube, right? That would be long form video that I'm in the mood to watch something 10 minutes or 4 minutes of commitment, maybe even 15 sometimes. The good thing is there are no restrictions. There's just common sense, really, you know. So you can do anything from 1 second, like that cinematograph I showed you, so many of those, all the way up to 15. This is best practice. Video at any length is on the go. We talked about this earlier in this speed in with which scrollers also vary by age. And the other thing to do this, so the smart thing, like I said, the 70-20-10 rule, the best way to get impact is to combine a few assets in a campaign. So if you have, say, I'm launching Pepsi Black, or, you know, whatever that specific project or campaign objective might be, I'll say within that campaign, then I will have 70% of my stuff might be short videos, and I'll do cinemagraphs, and then 20% I might do a really cool carousel with a creative idea around it, and then I might, or a 360 experience, and then 10% would be, hey, I'm going to do something really cool with live, right? And that way what happens is you get a lot of hardworking objectives met, as well as storytelling and brand. And I'm going to show you some quick examples of this is for Tommy Hilfiger, and they used 3 different assets, which is nice. So they went live. They had a fashion show. They went live from their from the fashion show from the runway. Then they said, hang on a minute, we'll also make a bot. And they used Gigi Hadid, and they made a bot where, you could check out the different looks. You could shop within the bot. And then they did a 360 from the pier where you could feel like you were hanging out with all the hot models. So you could turn your phone around and you were there with all the hot chicks in the nice clothes. And then this is a new format we have, which is really fun. It works great for e-commerce clients, but even for CPG clients, like if you have different flavors, or you want to connect this straight away to a retail this thing where I can shop what I'm seeing. So the upper part of it's called collections. It's a shoppable video where it starts off as a video, 1:1 video, and whatever is featured in the video, it opens that up into a little carousel where I can shop for what is featured in the video. So you could showcase different flavors, and straight away within the format you can scroll down, add to bag, and it links you to the website, and boom, you can shop for it. Everyone okay so far? I've been going for a while. How are we doing on time? I'm nearly done. I want to just show you some interesting examples now of maybe storytelling or brand building. And most of them are videos. So what I might do is I'll skip this in the interest of time, and I will show you, sorry. Yeah, why don't I show you this one? Oops, what happened? I went out of...
No problem.
Okay, I'm going to play a video. We think of storytelling and you say, hey, Juhi, it's 3 seconds. Is that all I've got? But instead, watch this. Du bleu, du rouge, du jaune, du vert, du blanc, du rose, du noir, du mauve. Je veux de la couleur. Je veux de la couleur. Je veux de la couleur. Je veux de la couleur.
Like England, man. Are you serious?
Je veux de la couleur.
Right, yeah, let's do it.
Je veux de la couleur. Je veux de la couleur sur mes mains. Je veux de la couleur dans ma vie. Je veux de la couleur dans mes nuits. Je veux de la couleur dans mes yeux. Je veux de la couleur sur mes mains. Je veux de la couleur dans ma vie. Je veux de la couleur dans mes nuits. Je veux de la du bleu, du rouge, du jaune, du vert, du blanc, du rose, du noir, du mauve, le ciel, la mer, le soleil, la terre, la nuit, le jour, l'été, l'hiver. Je veux de la couleur.
Excuse me, man, can you play some of the music down? Should I go on a boat? Yeah. Should we organise a boat? Yeah, kind of.
So I don't know if you got, maybe the video is still playing. Is it on a lag? Okay. Cool. So it's a simple idea where they said you can crush the man, but you can't crush his suit. His suit doesn't get crushed for 5 days nonstop. It's like a pressure test, right? And what's nice is if you think of this as a different way of storytelling, because this is not a story that played out in 30 seconds. This played out in 5 days in real time, right? And what I showed you was obviously a package sort of edit and a case study that they did after. But in real time, in 5 days, this is exactly how you follow. People cared about what was happening to him. He was checking in from every location that he landed at. He was complaining from Sydney. When he was sleepless in London, he was, so these were all put out as ads, static short videos, and you followed the course of what was happening to him when he went live he checked in from Sydney and went, oh my God, I'm so exhausted. And people were commenting nonstop because they wanted to follow his journey. So this is you got this character, you're amused at how messed up and how much he's suffering. And people are part of the story because they are talking to him, they're participating with him and checking in every time he checks in. This is just a different way of looking at storytelling, and this is obviously 5 days. Any activation, if you think of things like in that space, to do something in real time is what's beautiful, which is it's a mobile phone. It's with me 24 hours a day. So I don't have to tell a story in either 3 seconds or in 30 only. I can tell it over 5 days. You could do 6 days of summer, I don't know, and then tell a story around that and get people to sort of check in. This is another way to do storytelling. I'll play this. So this uses a carousel, right? And in a carousel, you have to swipe. And what they did so beautifully is a creative use of that functionality, because the super or the prompt appears and says, help Elias move ahead. And when you do swipe, you see his story progress. So this is for migrants when they landed in France and how difficult it was for them to navigate the bureaucracy and settle in. Each time it says, help him move ahead. And then the last one, you help him move ahead, and then, there is an end with a call to action. But I wanted to show this just to open up, to inspire, and to say, if you think of storytelling not as a static one video only, like a standalone, but you can tell a story across a canvas or across a carousel if you use it creatively. And this, if you look at this, is almost like if this was a TVC, it would have been, a 1 minute standard edit. But nicely chopped up, matched with the functionality of the carousel is a more powerful way of telling that story with multiple short 10 seconds together. This is something really nice, Facebook Live. Now, I know you're all familiar with Facebook Live, I'm sure. But we think of Facebook Live more as a media option, well, hey, I'm live from the red carpet, or I'm live from a cricket match, or I'm live from whatever. And it's more like I'm doing a press conference, so can I go live from there? Yes, you can. Of course you can. It's like a broadcast. But it's not, and there's nothing wrong with that. But what my job is to sort of give you ideas on what if you were to put an idea and to put a story and to put the brand, and think of this almost like an opportunity to do branded stories and branded content, and stage it, and almost, so if you think of reality TV for brands, but done in 10 minutes using Facebook Live. So it isn't just I'm going live with no structure, or I'm going broadcasting an event, but I create for live. So this idea was created for live. Old Spice's promise basic is, it's a new deodorant that lasts for 48 hours. So what did they do? They did a Facebook Live broadcast, which lasted for 48 hours, just like the deodorant claims that it does. So they had a guy in a studio. So if you see the first phone on your left, they did phase 1 where they had, this dude is going to go live for 48 hours. Don't miss it. So this is phase 1. This is going to happen. Make sure you tune in 12 hours. And they had updates.
Over those next 48 hours. And make them do whatever you wish. What?
And they made this guy, so you can comment live. That's the beauty of live, which is in real time, millions of people can watch something and interact with it, and you can acknowledge that in the live stream, right? So, hey, you know what? Paolo wants me to climb the wall. Okay, Paolo, here you go. I'm gonna climb the wall. Now what do I do next? And Old Spice. So different people made him literally do different things, and he was like their little guinea pig in this. But what's nice, I'd like you to notice, is it's not just an event that was happening. It is properly planned, it's creative, it's engaged, it's really entertaining. It is branded in many ways. It starts with Old Spice 48-hour live, it's called that. It's white and red color coded. So it's like doing an ad but for 48 hours. And it's the best ad you'll do because people are commenting, people are connecting with it. And then after you've gone on, say, hey, what happens, Juhi, after 48 hours? This is just like a tent pole. And then what? After 48 hours, so X number of people, connected with him on live. Great. Then they took the best portions, the funniest bits of those 48 hours, and they packaged that into short videos, and they put those out on a reach and frequency kind of a plan. For the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So you really squeeze the juice of, you drive attention and viewership towards, hey, I'm going to be doing this live cool thing. You do the live for as long as, it doesn't have to be 48 hours. In this case, that was the idea. It could be just 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And then you package the best parts of it. And look at some of the results are just insane. Very, very cool. In terms of ad recall, message association. The only thing is this is your 10%, right? This is not your 70. So the 70-20-10 rule. 70 is where you reach the maximum number of people, and live is a great way to tell long form branded stuff and content and stories. You reach slightly fewer people, which is why you do the package, the highlights, and push that out again. But the kind of level of the quality or the depth of the interaction is much higher than with a 3-second ad. So that's why you need a nice mix in a campaign. Obviously, lots of really great press around it, and lots of what we like to say is organic sort of spill. Instagram stories is a playful way. I think we talked about Lay's using either you give it to your influencers and ask them to create the stories and make content, but being playful with stories, like all of these overlays, filters, this is how, young adults are creating stories like this. So why not play with the format? This is a different way to tell a story. It just adds a sense of whimsy, being playful. Building brand love. I'm gonna go over this because we will talk about targeting maybe in the next round, because we'll keep it to a simple. I want to show you some brand immersions. Okay, this is a great example of moment marketing. Like this was done around Christmas when we know, and they wanted to launch this bag, and it's relevant to your category, so I want to show this. It's called the Tear and Share bag, and they said, hey, we have this bag that's made for sharing. And there's lovely insight that people sometimes embarrassingly overshare stuff on social media. It says, we wouldn't have shared this, Charlotte. And instead, share the bag. This is made for sharing. That's not. So they did a whole series with funny things that, people sharing embarrassing content and then connecting back to this. Sorry, I'm going to skip this to talk a little bit about. Oops, sorry, branding. Okay. We'll talk a little bit about brand experiences, and then I'd love to sort of wrap up and maybe do a little, if there are any questions and a discussion, because I've been talking nonstop. I'm sure you're sick of my voice. Brand experiences is another way to build engagement and to build stories and reward people for. So if I'm selling a functional message, great. If I am, you can do live in the 10% of it. And this is also a way where I can building brand love. This was done I'm going to talk over it. We did this for Chevrolet, And they wanted to reward the fans, so they fly 20 people to Manchester, to the Old Trafford, to sort of play at this very epic, that the big stadium. And we said, what about all those fans of yours who will never get to win, and you might fly only 20 people, but there are millions of fans across APAC. So we created this experience brought to you, and it started with Chevrolet. A Chevy can take you there. And a Chevy can take you anywhere on earth, including Old Trafford. And so even if you can't get there, you can feel like you're there with this immersive sort of 360 that we created on the pitch. And it was used, it used old photos and showed you sort of trivia. That's what fans really care about. And there was so much brand love. Like, I love Chevy. If I love the car and I love Manchester United and soccer, I would love Chevy for giving this to me to play with and to enjoy all the trivia and walk through all this. Look down, you see the grass. Look up, you see the stands. So building brand experiences. So imagine things like, for example, Mountain Dew is about adventure, for instance, right? Or what is adrenaline? What could you do that is immersive 360, where I can almost feel that sense of adventure from my armchair, or from my home, or from my phone, right? I may not jump off a cliff, but I could get that feeling of what it feels like and drive that brand experience through 360.
What?
And we now have 360 live.
Yeah,
right?
And even with 360, as much as you can do it with something more adventurous, we've even seen examples of Kentucky Fried Chicken. They actually went into the bucket of chicken, so with a full sort of immersive experience, and the coupon was at the bottom. So it's really opens up so much new opportunities to do something fun. And I know there's a lot of creative agencies on the line as well. You guys look for new stuff that hasn't been seen and done by others. This is one of the opportunities where there's still a lot to play and to win.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, 360, people have done lots of, like Oscar was saying, beautiful views of things, and that's how it's been used. But put an idea around it. You can even gamify it, like, look for the coupon with it inside this bucket and you get a free whatever. There are so many cool ways to use 360 if you do it from a creative point of view and with a strategic sort of, I'm going to have fun with this. This is one more example on live, where I want to show you how to do a live well. This is something that Mini Cooper did. During Christmas time, they said they did phase 1, which is the phones on your left side of the screen, which is Mini Cooper Christmas races coming soon, 5:30 Wednesday or whatever, right? So it drives appointment and tells you this is about to happen. And then the second phone tells you how it works, which is depending on which reaction you press during the live. So if it's a like, the like is connected to the blue car, the heart is connected to the red car, and you can drive and you can make the cars win, and you can participate in this race just by pressing the different reactions. This is called live polling. Maybe you obviously must be familiar with it. Then they did phase 2, where they actually ran the race. So it was like a 10-minute race where they had mini cars, little Mini Coopers on a racetrack, and people in real time press the I press like, and the red car goes ahead. You press the other one, and the blue car is winning. And people are commenting and participating in this Mini Cooper Christmas race for almost up to 10 to 15 minutes. So this is a great way for brands to create experiences and emotions. And, if you think of activations on the ground, and instead of that, you think of them now on mobile, right? This is a great way to connect. And then, like all best practices, okay, so many people participated in the live, wonderful, but that's over now. Now I took the best portions of that, the most exciting parts of the race, and I packaged that into a highlights short video that was then put out to even more people and say, hey, look what Mini Cooper did. This is the race. It's not much fun to just watch, but this is just the highlights of it. No sound.
Yes.
And that's a live tab on it. You can see, the orange one is 15 only, whereas 89 is winning because the heart
wins.
The heart wins. And then it just says, oh, the red car won. Thank you for playing and, being part of the game. So,
I think you're okay.
I love the feeling that you're giving me. So that's Instagram stories where you tap left, you go back, you tap right, you go forward. That's the functionality of it. And they played with it to create a brand experience. Bacardi is about music. So you can play DJ by going left, right, and you can remix and have fun with it. So creating interactive, immersive brand experience is a great way to build brand love and to tell the brand story, but in an unusual and different mobile-friendly way. I think I'm going to just quickly summarize now and maybe open up for some questions. In summary, really, we talked a little bit about making sure that we think not just a social mindset, but think of it as a what's my objective and how do I reach it and how do I use this as a media platform in a clever way. We talked about creative being right for feed, some basic principles, mute friendly, short, front loading the branding always, but doing it in an inventive way. And we also talked about the context of, yes, those 3 seconds is where, or 3 to 6 seconds short form video is where video is big, short video is even bigger. That's what drives maximum impact. That's 70% where we should be over indexing. And then we should have your more shiny, sexy, fun stuff is with live and with, 360. And there's so much creative opportunity to build things like brand love and brand experiences through those devices. And you combine all of these and you get great impact on the platform. Thank you very much for your attention. I can't see all of you, so we'll just unmute, and if there are any questions or anything we'd like to discuss, very happy to take them.
Yeah, while you guys are thinking about your questions, which is fine, I think this. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm sure some of the examples that stand out will easily be remembered. I think it was very clear that there's a very broad sort of range. Just a few notes that I made also from the beginning, from the introduction that Juhi did so clear on, emphasizing the idea that a lot has not been done. It's tough to get it perfect the first time. So experiment. One of our philosophies always has been, what would you do if you weren't afraid? Build something, discuss it, test it on the platform, learn, do it better again. Keep improving it. You won't get it perfect the first time. That's no problem. If you have also the variety of assets, when you have a big campaign, some will work better than others. You'll take it along with the next ones, and other markets can learn from you. Just re-emphasizing the point of moving from social metrics to business metrics. Very clearly laid out that we can move your business on our platform. So we understand the why. If you want to learn more about the how, we provided the Pocket Guide, which is a booklet that shows a little bit through the process. Now, it is a bit theoretical. If you haven't received the physical booklet, I don't have it here with me, but we also uploaded a PDF on the group, which also covers some of the questions that typically are answered, are some of the questions that people wonder in the process. Listen, nothing is perfect when you run into a training process in a program like this, but this should be contributing to, and there's my power cord that I forgot. Thank you so much, Olivia. We wouldn't be here without Olivia. Oops. That's a crucial point. So on the how, you can see that. I think creativity sets you apart on this platform. There's so much content out there that what you do, when it is, how you design it for the screen, make it match with the news feed, how you play with the sound, the movement, the 70-20-10. Those are some of the relatively simple guidelines to follow. And I'm sure in 3 months from now, some guidelines will be added, changed, also we are learning as we speak. But that's why it's so important. And next week we start talking about how we track some of the results of our campaigns. With that said, I'll give you guys one more time, and I think today is not so much of groups are tapping in, but more individuals who may be sitting behind their computer go, I'm not going to ask anything, and which is fine as well. You can send us an email. You can ask your local Facebook contact. I'm sure that Arun and Rehan will also gladly forward any kind of question by email if you don't have our contact. So,
and there's two links. So not questions, but just in case, one link I would love for you all to check out if you haven't already is the Creative Hub. You can literally just Google it, or we can mail it out. But if you just search for it and say Facebook Creative Hub, that's a great tool for, it's got lots of inspirational examples on there. It has formats, and also you can do a very easy, quick mock-up of what your ad will look like on a phone. It sends you a quick preview in a Facebook environment. So it's a great way to do a preview on a mobile phone, and it's like Photoshop for Facebook. And you can if you're in an agency, you can just use it very quickly to see how it looks. And it takes literally 2 minutes, no training required. It's very intuitive, and you can mail the link to clients, and you guys can give feedback and send it right back. So it's a great tool to sort of, instead of doing PowerPoints and storyboards, it's a great way to just try it out. So that's Facebook Creative Hub. And the other thing is, I've got a group on Facebook called Thought for Feed, THOUGHT for feed, like a news feed. Please feel free to check it out. I post updated, very creative examples of good work on Facebook there pretty regularly. So if you'd like to join that group, you're very welcome.
Okay. So with that, again, if you have questions, shoot them to us. We'll now see if the technology allows us for Rayon to share his screen.
Yeah. Prior to that, I have two questions. And I think these are two questions which are being asked by Marcus on a regular basis. Considering that most of the time we have a bit of relation around development of a lot of creatives, would Facebook creatives or Instagram story creatives work across the platforms? Like if you develop something for Instagram stories, would it work for Facebook? And similarly, if you develop something for Facebook, was it work for Instagram or not?
Yeah,
or you would have to create both.
So the answer is yes. Now that we have vertical video, if it's good work, works across platforms. So as long as the work is good and it follows some of the basic guidelines and is designed for the mobile feed, it will work across all platforms. Obviously, you can say, hey, I want to specifically think of Instagram stories because I'm talking to young adults and I want to do something, then maybe you want to start out there. But there's nothing stopping you from taking that Instagram story ad and putting it on Facebook and maximizing your reach, and because it's the same, it's a vertical video, same thing. Easily works across both. That's a great way, in fact, to drive what we call Facebook plus Instagram for reach. I mean, Oscar can help me out. From a creative point of view, short answer is absolutely yes. Works across.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. The second question is around the fact that yes, most of the examples that we saw today were basically around the fact that there was already something creative that had been developed, and it had more or less being maneuvered accordingly and edited in order to bring it on Facebook, or some things which were involved during the time of production which helped in improving the Facebook performance. There are certain brands and scenarios in markets where we do not have a TVC. We just have a simple, maybe a big idea around the creative, or how do we want to tap the creative. But we don't have a TVC. We don't have any visual stuff. We don't have any productions to support that. So in that scenario, how would your team really support the brands?
Okay, the sound dropped off at the end of your question, but I think your question is clear, which is what if I do not have the full global assets coming in, the TVCs coming in? I don't have a ready-made kind of TV commercial that I can recut, or don't even have a still. What can I do as a brand to design it actually specifically for the platform? And I'll start, and I'll let Juhi fill in at the end. I think what we've seen, some of the cinema graphics, right? Those are typically done with 1 or 2 print ads in mind. So yes, for that you would need a visual. But if you have any agency with a motion graphic designer and some sort of experience, he can quite easily, and there's different formats on how we either keep the brand in motion, keep the product in motion, or the message, how we can do different things. And if anybody has specific questions, we can show you how we do the cinema graphics. Yes, you see still a lot of the campaigns are re-edits of existing work, and it is quite often, and that's the key thing why we're actually running the program. We want briefs to become mobile first. And I tell you, if you feed your agency a mobile first brief, they will start designing for the platform. What we can do, and I think that is your sort of the end of your question, is how can Creative Shop and Facebook help when I'm in a situation that I got a great idea, I find it tough how to pull the assets together and how to design for this. It's important that there's a lot of markets, there's a lot of projects. We try to identify them up front. So the earlier you come with these projects to us or to your local contact, the better we can help you. We can do it from, as I said, in a co-creation. We love to work with your agencies together. So we go together on the journey, and some of the times we will throw in one of the ideas ourselves, which is like, hey, here's the standing idea. Here might be something we've seen that is specifically designed for the platform.
Yeah, Oscar has explained it really well, but simply to answer your question, it's easy if you have existing assets. It's we're saying if you got something, you'll have a pack. You might not have a TVC, you'll have a poster. If not a poster, you'll have a pack. And you'll have a proposition and an objective. If that's sorted, if you have that much, it can easily be optimized, and we can build capabilities with the agency, and we can guide you, or we can even point you towards production houses and help get that done for you. But that's the easy one. I think the tough question you're asking is, what if I don't even have a poster and I just have a brand idea and what I want to do with it? In which case, it's fine. That's even more exciting, because we've got a clean slate, and we can build for feed. So instead of trying to optimize or tweak and adjust, we can actually create for feed, which is very exciting, provided it's a clear, strong, good idea, and it's a clear objective. We can work together with the agency. We would still say we can hack it together and say, hey, guess what? Clean slate, this is the brand, this is what it is, this is all we've got. What do we do? What would we do on Facebook and Instagram? And we can hack together with the agency, come up with ideas. We can then produce those, and we can do some simple shoots, and like that beer ad, the beer stuff I showed you with the dude with the label. All of that there was nothing, right? They just did a half day, 4-hour shoot with some quick edits, and or you could look at the pack and think of
logo even.
Yeah. And there are always ways around. We are happy to sort of adjust to what the situation is and work accordingly. But long story short is, optimization is the easy part. In fact, that's a simple way in, right? Because you've already got stuff. You just have to sort of small tweaks and boom, it's ready to go. In fact, origination is very exciting for me as a creative, because that's where, when you're creating something for Facebook and Instagram with that in mind, you can do some really cool stuff, and you can do a great job if you start early. And we're happy to sort of, depends on, let's identify those projects and put some briefs around it, and, let's see how we can work with the agencies.
And let's start with 2 things that agencies love, which is enough time and a good brief, and that maybe segues us into the final part.
Perfect. Guys, on the all of the participants, do you have any other questions? If not, then let's move on to the contest part. Thank you very much, Juhi, for
I
returning this
have a
session for.
question if you have time.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
So hi, this is Shayan from Pakistan. So Juhi, what we usually do is because we are used to a TV first campaign. So whenever we launch a campaign, we always put our TVC first on TV and on Facebook, and then maybe 4 or 5 days later is when we get these 3 seconders, short videos or a pocket TVC or something of that sort. So do you think we should launch the TVC and these smaller edit slash creative elements at the same time, or should we give a gap between the TVC launch and the eventual creatives coming in?
Hey Shayan, thank you. Good question. So we call this pocket TVC, which is you the short answer is it should go at the same time, and the short answer is don't put the TVC on Facebook because that's not the best use of the money. If you put the TVC on air, we take that TVC and we turn it into 2 or 3 assets, which means either a 3 second or a 6 second cut down, usually a combination of assets, which would be 6 to 15 second cut down, but it's made for feed. The branding comes in early, not at the end in the back shot, etc. All those simple tweaks I talked about. So doing like a 6 to 15 second cut down, maybe a carousel, and definitely I would say in Pakistan, India, Indonesia, one static element to the campaign, which is complete and branding and has the main proposition. So for lower bandwidths, the static thing works. It's not all just video. So if you were to combine these 3 basic assets, which is a carousel, maybe carousel can be static plus video combined. Carousel works really well. A short cut down of a video, you could do anything from 3 up to 10, 15 seconds, and maybe and a static element. These 3 pieces designed for mobile are the best way to bring your TVC to life on Facebook. So, and it should happen at the same time, because that's just a translation of what the TV commercial is for Facebook. These 3 assets in combination. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. Makes sense. I think it'll take some time before the trust comes for the brand team to not launch with a TVC. But I'm hoping sessions like this will help them understand that that is the right way to do.
Sure. I mean, you can launch with the TVC on TV, no problem.
Yeah, there's maybe a channel. Listen, this is the best advice that Juhi has, which is cut it down from the get-go. Make sure, and you'll see we're doing some testing as well, and on all the brands you'll see that the view through of even 2 seconds to 10 seconds, it really is minutious depending on the quality of your creative. But you can believe me that on typical TVCs, nobody's waiting for the big boom that comes after 28 seconds. Now, we are developing tools like Audience Network, and your media agency is probably familiar with it or will soon be, that you can buy then longer format video that is midstream, as they call it. So they will typically go through publishers, and you will have sort of ad breaks. Now, that's an additional tool. Focus for what we have now on shorter forms, as Juhi had recommended.
And I would just say you don't have to take our word for it. I think we have to learn from the data we have, right? So it's not about me trying to convince you. It's not a creative conversation. It's really a common sense conversation where we have so many examples. We have another deck, and if you like, for some of the markets where if there is a persuasion or a mindset change that's needed, we can run just the Pocket TVC deck, where we have data points that show that when you put the original TVC as is on feed, these are the results you get in terms of message recall, brand association, viewability, etc. Versus when you adapt it, and by adapt it I mean do 2 or 3 different cut downs and skin it differently for Facebook. When you do that, when you adapt it for mobile, look at how much your money works better, because that's when you get impact. So, and we have so many examples of brands that are, Unilever is doing this across the board now. It's a rule. It's a rule, right? It's simple. Shows us that it works. So don't take my word for it. We can run that deck if you like. We can, or we can
Probably not
click
today.
it.
Probably not
Not
today.
today, but we can send you a link
Yep.
to that deck, which has lots of proof points that show you when they did TV, this is what it resulted in on feed versus when they optimized, this
Yeah.
is what happened.
And
Right.
and Jochen,
Agreed.
who's has that information as well, who's closely involved with all the developments in Pakistan.
Yeah.
Thank you for
All
the
right.
question.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, guys. Any other questions? Would really appreciate if you can just kindly email us, and we'll definitely get back to you. Thank you once again, Juhi.